Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic/non-classic. This episode 841, Doubleshot number 735. Like I said last one, SpiderMan and a X-Men trade. First up is something classic-wise. This is SpiderMan, a new Goblin, collecting Amazing Spider-Man number 176 to 180. Written by the late Lean Ween, artwork by Ross Audrey. I don't know if Ross Audrey is still alive. Let me look him up on here. Yeah. I know Lean Ween is no longer alive because he passed away last year. There he is. Ross Audrey is no longer alive. He passed away. He passed away the same year as Jack the King Kirby, 1993. Yeah. New Goblin. This is debut of the third Green Goblin. Burt Hamilton. Yep, Burt Hamilton. Yeah, it's a mystery of the whole storyline until the final issue. Yeah, and also we have some stuff related to stuff happening in previous stuff, like Spider-Man taking Jameson home after he seen him being murdered by the Hitman. Yeah, this is like right after the character Hitman gets killed up by the Punisher. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that. And this is sort of a crime story, also involving SpiderMan, where he looks much more younger than he's been usually depicted. Yeah, SpiderMan shows up in here. And of course, there is stuff with Mary Jane, and of course, Aunt May. And one of the many times this happens throughout Spider-Man's history, she collapses and ends up in the hospital. Yes, this was a reoccurring trope of May Parker. I am not kidding about this. This was a recurring trope with her up until the 1990s. Yes, if you read any Spider-Man comic from the moment he debuted up until the 1990s, this happened a lot. I mean, she must have collapsed by the time of her actual parent death back in the mid-90s during the Clone Saga. Amazing 400, she must have collapsed a good 30 times, at least 20 times. Yes. It's frequent with her. And then by this last decade or so, like during JMS's run, she never collapsed though. She did it up in the hospital though. Yes, that's because what happened because Spider-Man outed himself. But yeah, this is a recurring trope of Spider-Man comics of May Parker frequently collapsing and ending up in the hospital. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, especially by the 90s, this was getting old really bad. So I guess people were very happy that after she was resurrected, there must have been an editorial mandate put down like, hey, no more. Like after they brought back May Parker in the most stupidest way possible. Yeah, it's like, okay, we can never have her collapse again due to whatever. They did have a hint of that during Slott's most recent run, and though it turned out by J. Jameson, but yeah. That was a dumb thing to do. That was one thing that I didn't really care for at all. I have nothing against, people suffering through a heart attack and end up in the hospital. Fine. Whatever. I don't have a really big problem with that. My problem is that this is one of the many times this has happened. This is not the first time this has happened. This is even starts back, even during Dicko's run, May Parker went up in the hospital. Yes, this has happened like in almost every single major artist run, or at least up until like the Clone Saga. Yeah, after the Clone Saga, my guess is when she was brought back, there must have been an editorial mandate put down by maybe Bendis, or actually could have been Joe Quesada who probably did this. This is one thing that maybe he didn't agree with, the whole thing of having May Parker frequently collapse, like fall down and up in the hospital on a frequent basis. So he must have told people who wrote any Spider-Man comic or any comic that features May Parker, do not have her do this ever again, because I grew up reading this and even I thought this was stupid. Really, really stupid. Yeah. But aside from that, this is a really damn good story. Good crime drama. Lean Ween, basically, this is one of his best works he's ever done. And it's something, though, that he turned a psychiatrist into the third Green Goblin. And here's the thing. After the end of the storyline, Burt Hamilton dies. And here's the thing. He actually stays dead. Yeah, one of the few characters to stay dead. He's been brought back as part of the Legion of Living, but went back being dead after that. But as for full-on resurrection, not really. No, he's been cloned during the clone conspiracy storyline a couple years ago. Though I think that is Burt Hamilton, though they never officially confirmed it because it can't be Norman, it can't be Harry, so it's got to be either Burt or that bogus hop Green Goblin from the late '90s, which he did later. That apparently was a robot. They never confirmed exactly who that guy was. This is a really fantastic story. Highly recommend people fans not only of Spider-Man, but of the Green Goblin as well. Heck, at one point, they even have Harry Osborn put on the Green Goblin costume again and actually beat up Burt Hamilton for held him hostage for 5 issues. Really good stuff. 10 out of 10. Classic storyline. Next up, it is XMen Volume 2, Muertas. This collects X-Men Volume 4, Issues 7 through 12, written by Brian Wood, artwork by Terry and Rachel Dotson, along with Chris Akia, Barry Kitson, and Clay Mann. Yep. With this storyline, we have 2 new people joining this roster. We have the Omega Sentinel, who is no longer Omega Sentinel. She's going by her own name. Carmela Serpentor and Monette. Yep. They both join this team. Those of you just reading the series like, what happened to Kitty Pryde and Rogue? Well, they had Rogue removed from the roster because what happened to Candy Avengers having her apparently died, but that was later on done. And Kitty Pryde, they removed her because of her defection to Cyclops' side. So they replaced it with these 2 characters. Okay. And plus, this storyline does wrap up a subplot from the previous issues with the whole thing with Roxy, with her and Mercury. They do, in fact, wrap that up and they become a couple at the very end. This storyline, this is the return of the Sisterhood. First time since their actual self-titled storyline back in 2008. Was it 08? Yeah, it was 08. It had been a good, I think it had been a good, at least 5 years since the actual group showed up. And the group is consisted of, get this, Lady Deathstrike, Typhoid Mary, the Enchantress, and I think that's it. They also had Akira. Yeah, she was a character that made a debut in the previous arc, though there was a standalone issue between here. And, of course, the whole 2-part Battle of the Atom. Plus, the writer himself brings back 2 characters in the storyline. One, of course, I know for a fact she's been dead since 2010. They brought her back toward the end of this thing, the last couple issues. Yeah, Brian Wood resurrects the Black Queen of the Hellfire Cub, Selene. Yes, he resurrects Selene. This woman had been dead since the events of Nerosha back in 2010. Yes, this character had been dead for 4 years. Good period of time for a character being dead, not a year or 2. Madeline Pryor, of course, not been seen since the previous Sisterhood storyline from Kenny X-Men, which is now at Mad Fraction. But they even have a cameo by starring Black Panther's daughter from the future. Yeah, despite the fact she said she was going to stay in the present, she does nothing. And it's been like a good 5 years since Battle of the Atom. And aside from this storyline, make a quick cameo, she's done nothing. She hasn't taken part in the X-Men Adventures. She hasn't met her father in the present. Nothing. I'm like, then what was the purpose of keeping this character in the present if you do nothing with this character? Yeah. But this storyline is really, really good. And there's still one more storyline after this of Brian Wood's very brief run on this book. Because after he left issue 17, we had 2 writers to go over the book for 1 story arc apiece. And that was it. That was the end of the damn series. And I love this series. It's really good. They even have Lady Deathstrike take over this woman's body, and she looks like this. This is her look in the storyline, though. She later goes back to her X2 look. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that when they brought back Selene, that was a good surprise. I don't think anybody was seeing the return of Selene. Yeah, you know how she died? She got killed by freaking Warpath of X-Force. Of course, Warpath is occasionally show up in comics. I think his most recent appearance was actually in Astonishing X-Men under Matthew Rosenberg. Yeah, he got killed by him with one of his knives. Yeah, he killed her when she was in giant-sized form. Yeah, when she was this giant blue goddess thing. And, of course, he killed her, and she stayed dead for a long time. I at least got to praise Marv for keeping her dead for 4 years. As Madeline Pryor, wow, I did not expect this happening. And here's the thing. Aside from Madeline Pryor, Lady Deathstrike is probably the only female character from the previous Sisterhood who actually part of this current Sisterhood. And at least got handed to Brian would have this Sisterhood take on this team of X-Men better than a mix between male and female members. Yeah, this makes perfect sense to do. But this is probably one of his best storylines to date. Of the three, this is probably the best one, though the story that comes after this one. It was only like, yeah, the story that comes after this is only a good 5 issues. It's not like it's 6 issues like before. Like he started with a 4-parter. Actually, it was a 3-parter to start with. Then it was a standalone issue, and a 2-parter tied in with Battle of the Atom, and then this 6-parter, and then a 5-parter, and that was it. That was the entirety of Brian Wood's run for X-Men before the book got taken over by Mark Guggenheim, who did, I believe he did the arc that came right after that. He also, the final, well, they even had G. Willow Wilson, the writer of Miss Marvel, wrote the series too. This book is fantastic, and this book a 9.5. It's really, really good. I highly recommend people who are fans of the X-Men. Yeah. When I showed this friend of mine at church today, he's like, why is Storm having a mohawk? Yeah, there is an explanation for that, because after the events of AVX, Wolverine, she asked Wolverine to trim her hair down like this because of the end of her marriage to Black Panther. Which, in my opinion about this one, and a lot of people probably agree with me on this one, ending the marriage of Black Panther and Storm was an absolute terrible idea. I'm not sure who came up with this stupid idea, but I know it wasn't Bendis, because Bendis was the one who killed off Professor Xavier. I'm not sure who wrote the final issue, but man, I don't remember who wrote the final issue of AVX, but that was a dumb move on the part of Marvel to do and their marriage. Because this marriage had been going on for a good 6 years. And heck, there was a suggestion that maybe they could have had kids. Well, they kind of do in an alternate timeline. But in the present, oh God forbid we have to have superheroes have kids anymore. Yeah, I think the last known superhero to do that was Spider-Woman. Yep. But this is really good. This book, a 9.5 out of 10. It's really, really good. I picked this book up at Ollie's for a good $6. It was pretty cheap, but I love getting this thing. Yeah, now I gotta get one more trade, and I have the entirety of Brian Wood's run for this book. But I don't own all the trades for this run. It's still about, I think about 3 trades left, because there's one more trade for Brian Wood. And there's also the one trade by Mark Guggenheim, and of course the one done by G. Willow Wilson. Yeah, but this is good. Yeah, I don't really know why Brian Wood left after 17 issues. Yeah, it still bugs me of why. If I meet Brian Wood, I'm going to ask him that. Why did he leave this book after 17 issues? And also, here's kind of the weird thing about this particular storyline. Yeah, Dawson's do this storyline. But here's the thing. After the story concludes, they stop doing interior artwork. I mean, if you notice, like any book they're listed on, they only do covers. They haven't done interior artwork now since this storyline. I'm not kidding about this. Not since these issues came out that they've done interior artwork. And this came out, some of these issues, like the issues they worked on, came out 5 years ago. And they haven't done interior artwork since then. All they've done is covers. They're great artists, but I love the interiors these two do. They're great artists. Though Rachel Dotson's inker, but it's great. I love it. I really miss their interior artwork. I kind of wish they would basically do interior artwork again. Of course, I would ask like why they stopped if I get a chance to meet them. But at least like if I get a chance to meet the Dotsons, I actually have 2 trades for them to sign. Same thing with Brian Wood. Yeah, even Clay Mann, I have 1 trade for him. Yep. So that's it for this particular review. My next review I'm going to do 2 cosmic stuff. 1 from Marvel, 1 from DC. Okay. But until you see you on my next review, which I have a few more reviews come up today. Yeah. Excuse me. Hopefully review new stuff for newest episode for Dragon Ball Super. Newest episode One Piece. I'm going to reviewing this chapter. Baruto, and of course another reviewing hopefully volume 18 of the High School DxD light novel. Expect to see those reviews today. Okay. But until you see the next review. Bye.